All right, it's 9:01. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order if that's okay with you, Chance.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are there any members of the public here that wish to speak over Zoom? Veronica? I don't see any. You just confirm on your end?
Just Cameron.
Cameron. All right.
Yeah, it doesn't look like any that would be here to speak. I would say since the switch from in-person and Zoom to all Zoom, if someone pops in later, maybe we can cycle back to see if anyone pops in.
Okay. Did Cameron wish to speak?
No, ma'am.
You're just here to take it all in.
Pretty much. No one will listen to me anyways. We're good. They'll block me out.
Welcome. It's good to see you this morning. All right. Moving on, let's get an approval for the meeting minutes. Any changes to notes? If not, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Second?
I'll second.
Who's that? Sean? Thank you, Sean. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thumbs up. All right. All right, motion passes. Moving on to new business. Chance?
Yes, ma'am. Just a little recap here on our parking fees as well. Every year too, we do kind of a benchmark parking fee rate survey that for those of you that have been here for a bit, kind of fed into our original 3-year fee analysis plan. But whether we have recommendations or not, we still do that annual review for benchmark municipalities. So I'll start here with what was passed last year, formally adopted by council and went into effect per DPAC's request mid-year, January 1st. This was year 3 of our 3-year parking fee revisions. Just a few highlights or all sorts of revisions this year. And if you recall, we went kind of heavier on year 1. There weren't many on year 2, and then we cycled back and went. And when I say heavier, just more revisions on year 3. On-street bumped up 50 cents per hour from $2.50 to $3. Most of the parking decks and parking lots had incremental hourly increases from the second hour onward. I think we kept the first hour static across the board. 24-hour max increases, market in the second went up to from 12 to 14. I think we're replaced went up to 15. The monthly fees went from 75 to 90 on the 24/7 access, which was a $15 increase. And the reserve went from 125 to 140, which is a $15 increase. The free 30-minute grace at market and second remain unchanged. And then the $1 first hour remain unchanged at market and second. As well, the highly discounted $25 rooftop rate at Second and Market Street also remain unchanged. Just a reminder of some of the cities we look at when we do our comparisons. I think there's 18 total on the screen in red are kind of some of the highlights. Alexandria, Asheville, we got our local regional beaches, Charleston, Charlotte, Durham, Greensboro, Raleigh, Richmond, and Savannah. I think there's a handful more on our screen, but these are kind of the highlights of those benchmarks. And with our review this year, we are actually plus, on average, we are plus 51 cents compared to our benchmark averages with our now $3 rate. So we are above the average benchmark there on the on-street hourly fees. Off-street, we are still down. It seems to be a trend every year, even though we've increased over the last 3 years. Our our benchmarks were either already very high or have also made some subtle increases. First hour average is $2.57. We average $1 to $2 on our first hour, so we're down 57 cents to $1.57. Daily max average across the board is $21.18. Even with our increase of 14 and up to 15, we're still down $6 to $7 on average. And the monthly parking is where we have seen some heavier variances, and I think the variance, honestly, compared to Market and Second Street, just increased again. On average, our benchmarks are at $139.88. So on average, we are down $19 to nearly $65 per parker per month. We don't have any planned fee increases this year. We wrapped up our year 3 of the 3-year recommendation. Year 3 just went into effect. So as it stands right now, we don't have any recommendations they're going to come to DPAC or City Council. Really, unless something comes up between now and the budget cycle. We'll continue to monitor on our funding levels, what we need on the expense side to balance the budget, as well as any other initiatives that parking could potentially fund downtown. So that's it on the kind of the recap of our rates and the parking fee review, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Vance, is there any room to, if we're increasing these fees, is there any room to look back at that first hour free at the parking deck?
We've looked at numbers. I think from a staffing level, it'd be a step backwards. I think it was a tool that was started in 2010, 2011 to really attract and get people downtown. I think as a city in growth, not only in the city and region, and just the attractions, the restaurants, what we have what we have downtown now compared to when we originally put that first hour free out there. From a staffing level, I don't think it's needed. In looking at it, we'd have to make up about roughly $50,000 in revenues to balance that out.
You said 50,000 in revenue?
Yeah, and if you were right now with the 30-minute grace, we're losing about 45,000 in revenue. I would say, without crunching numbers heavy, if we were to go the whole dollar, not only in that 45,000 we'd be missing, but you'd probably need to add another 30 to 40, somewhere between 30 and 50. I'd have to crunch numbers. So you'd be somewhere in between the 75,000 to 90,000 all in on potential unrealized revenue for that first hour.
Have we done a survey of the local businesses to kind of see if they've noticed an impact on that, on their businesses since that has been removed?
Not from the city level, no.
Yeah, chance to, when I talk to businesses about the new rate increase, both for the monthly parking rate and for the hourly parking on-street parking rate, everybody's pretty shocked. I don't know if the city had any public outreach before the rates increased one more time. But if this is set in stone, I think we probably need to do some sort of survey of the business community to see how much this has impacted them. I mean, just from a consumer standpoint, $3 an hour this time of year is pretty high. You mentioned Wrightsville Beach is one of the benchmarks right there, but Wrightsville Beach right now, public parking is free during the off season. So, but they also make up for that for very high parking rates during the on season. So I really would like to monitor this year to see how revenues change, improve, or go down as a result of some of the rates. Now, sometimes you can make the counter argument that if people are going to come downtown, they usually factor in the parking side of it, and they come down here to spend money anyway. I just don't want it to get too high if we do another increase. Let's say we evaluate throughout next year and we start increasing even more, that we get too outside of our purview for small downtown community like the Central Business District.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it's noted. I think that $3 per hour on street is probably at the top of our range, and I don't see us going up on that on street rate anytime soon, to be honest. I still think there's potential growth opportunities off street, depending on the office leases and if any of that comes back downtown to where it was pre-COVID, and other future growth there in the other areas of downtown. But yeah, I don't see that $3 per hour going up anytime soon.
Hey, Chance, are the are the parking deck numbers a little skewed because the Skyline deck is now in the counts?
You mean like just occupancy wise?
Well, I was looking at the number that you had on the last screen. Is you know, bringing in those parking spaces, does that skew your numbers at all? The $19 to 65.
No, like the Skyline's kind of in the middle of, in terms of the fees. Skyline's in the kind of roughly in the middle between market and second rates versus River Place. So when we do our kind of our variance comps, we look at the lower end, which is market and second, and then River Place is our higher end. So that's where that range is. So if you were to throw a third variance in there compared to Skyline, the benchmarks that we pull in, Jeff, it would land somewhere in the middle of those two numbers.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, one more thing I wanted to ask you. Has there been any just any investigation into programs that, let's say, a downtown dishwasher or cook or server could get into to have some sort of discounted rate on their parking?
Yeah, we have the $25 a month rooftop rate. It's been in effect for what, four years now, I think.
But it's just at one parking deck?
No, it's at 2nd Street and Market Street. I think Market Street, we've got roughly 85 to 90 at that rate. 2nd Street's grown. I think we've got 63 or 64 currently at 2nd Street. So that rate is being utilized.
What about the rate that's at the Skyline Center deck for those employees that work over there now? That's increasing.
We have not put a discounted rooftop rate in Skyline. I think we're kind of holding a lot of that capacity for future growth on a lot of those empty parcels. And the last discussion I had with management, they were very, 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 very cautious on even talking about any kind of discounted rate beyond the $100 monthly public rate.
Okay.
Is there a reason why for the fact that that parking deck services an area that is not, there's not really surrounding options, in my opinion. So why would we limit that on that side of the city for those employees? Like, is there rationale behind that right now?
I mean,
Or is that
there
just,
are, I mean, maybe it's a two-part answer. There are options. There's public parking at 2 private parking decks. Pier 33 parking deck has public parking, and the Metropolitan on Nutt and Harnett also has public parking. Convention Center has public parking. The Convention Center monthly parking fee, I think, is $130 right now. And then the Skyline is currently $100. So, and I think the second part is, yes, there is a lot of occupancy at Skyline right now, but there are a lot of eyes on that deck and how we utilize that deck to its full long-term potential as it relates to the 6 or 7 empty developable parcels right there. And we have to treat Skyline a little bit different than everywhere else because of how it was funded with public bonds. We have to keep X percentage open at all times for those daily, hourly parkers, like a true transient public parker, based on how it was funded. So that's kind of where some of our limitations are. So not to say that it won't happen in the future, just right now, we're just being very, very, very cautious on any discounted rates at that location and kind of holding that tight.
Now, Pier could also offer a little bit more in terms of supplying their commercial tenants with some parking as well. But I would, even with the $25 a month rate to be offered for employees, I'm still a little bit interested in finding out a little bit more about some other programs that may be in some other cities for the employees. I mean, really, other than, you know, when somebody goes to work at a restaurant in Mayfair, they don't have to pay for parking. But when they come down here, an employee that is on the bill for $14 an hour washing dishes or whatever, and the business that is suffering from many different, I don't know, overall revenues from everyone I talked to in the business community were down in 2024 for whatever reason, economy, election, you name the different reasons. I still think that there should be something offered for our, you know, our dishwashers, our servers, our chefs to come down here, or else we're going to continue to see the employee turnover downtown a little bit, because it's the only place that you have to go and pay money to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and in all of our benchmarks, there might be 1 or 2 that offer anything close to us. I think Raleigh does an evening only employee rate at nearly the same cost. I think it's 20 or 25 per month. And maybe Greensboro. There's one other that does an employee rate or geared toward those service industry employees. But across any of our other benchmarks, there is not an employee option. And as you can see, the monthly parking range, we're already nearly a subsidized rate compared to some of the other ones. So I mean, we can look at some other potential options, but you know, $25 a month is pretty darn free, and that's about $100,000+ again in unrealized revenue from the city by offering that $25 rate. So pretty cheap. And actually we went down. I think that rate was at 30 10 years ago. We bumped it up to 35 and actually dropped it down to 25 3 or 4 years ago. So we've decreased it $10 per parker. I think 3 to 4 years ago. But we can continue to definitely look at some options.
And how
Yeah, I would be in favor of that. I think that's a really excellent idea. I mean, the people that staff the business are to the lower end of the wage scale in particular, anything we can do to provide relief to that element, I think we should look at seriously. So I am in complete agreement with Christina on this.
Yeah, something we also got to look at on the parking side is really the financials. With Skyline, I think right now we've got 5 or 6 million in debt service annually. The general fund is still subsidizing the River Place debt service. We've been healthy on the financials, so we've been slowly paying back portions of that. But right now, based on where our fees are and where our activity is, we can't pay 100% of our debt service as it relates to Market, Skyline now, and River Place. We're covering Market. We're covering now a majority of Skyline. And then we have been slowly paying back portions of River Place just based on activity, positive net income flows over the last couple of years. But if you break it out on a year-to-year average of what we're bringing in, we can't cover our debt service with the fees set as they are now. So that I think that needs to be looked at as well. There's still a general fund subsidy coming to cover River Place.
Yeah, maybe this is too much to pull apart in an hour meeting, but I'd certainly be interested in looking at some of that. I mean, it's.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's, as the offset to that, contributions to the general fund being paid by whoever the property owners are at that site would be something to be considered. I'm not sure that it's just all down to debt service from being met from the fees, from the parking fees, if I'm being clear. Maybe not.
Yeah, noted, Michael. Should be noted on that too. Council adopted and approved a 50-year parking license agreement for those residents to pay a slightly below market discounted fee. So that's locked in.
That was actually one of my questions. How long was that for? So yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think
50.
it's like a 30-year. I don't have it in front of me, but I think all in there's extension terms that take it into 50 years. And there's 5-year incremental increases, but they're based on CPI, can't exceed 5%, stuff like that. And as an example, I think the developers 235 spaces right now are $100 per month per parker. Our market rate at River Place currently is $120. So it just kind of tells you where that falls.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this is something we do annually. We're not looking to increase anything beyond what we just did. At least till we look at this next year. And we can continue to do some research on some discounted subsidized service worker type parking programs. Maybe it's not a full month, maybe it's just a couple day a week type program that may or may not help. But yeah, we'll continue to work on this behind the scenes.
Thank you, Chance, for hearing all the input. I guess you're going to talk about the holiday lighting parking analysis as well.
Yeah. Next item, just some high level. I felt it beneficial to share with Deepak. I'm hoping everyone on the call here today saw, enjoyed, and was aware of the holiday lighting project downtown that was really spearheaded by our Madam Chair, Christina, and WDI. Started very small last year from a very, very grassroots approach. I think at one point or a few times last year, I was up on a ladder testing electrical outlets to where it landed this year. I think all in, we've spent close to $300,000 in federal ARPA funding. The project, like I said, the lighting portion of this project was really, really led by WDI and spearheaded there. But there was a working group between the CVB, WDI, the city, DBA and a handful of other stakeholders that have really been looking at how to promote tourism and how to promote the city's Riverwalk. And this lighting initiative was kind of bundled into that overall Riverwalk and tourism initiative. In addition to the multi-block lighting, there were also three Saturday evening drone shows. Once again, kind of just an activity and attraction in addition to the lighting, with a goal and intent to bring more bodies, more families downtown during the holidays. On the parking side.
Hey, time out 1 second. In terms of the, on the previous slide, I gotta tell you, I was going to email you, Christina, more than once. That was spectacular. I mean, and in terms of the lighting, from the, along the boardwalk, railings down through the streets, even up Castle Street, I suspect as you as well. That was just wonderful. We had people come out of town, stay with us for Christmas. They were really just blown away by this. I mean, I thought it was great. Anecdotally to the, we'll walk down to Rooster and Crow one night to pick up takeout. And one of those Saturday nights, the traffic was backed up just past Ann and Front, going all the way downtown. It was packed. People were going, I think, to the drone show as well. But looking down from, say, Ann and Front down into this downtown, it was wonderful. It was just really, really good. There's a picture on Facebook of somebody who lives in River Place. She has her 2 dogs, and she's there, like right, basically sort of just a little bit south of River Place, but right on that block. Of her walking her dogs, and her husband took the picture. And it's just really great. So well done. Thank you for that. I think that is just really excellent. And that's going to be the standard for next year. So
It is. Thank you. And I can't take credit for the Castle Street or the lamppost decorations. That was all the city this year.
Okay.
The police department retired those old, very tired looking wreaths that they were light up wreaths
Yes.
they used to
Right.
hang, and
remember.
introduced the new, very big, colorful holiday characters and images to be to post on the polls. So I think between what the city of Wilmington invested in the extra decorations through the Parks Department and kind of bringing about something new for the pole decorations this year, plus the lighting component that, you know, the project that I managed this year through all the lights on the Riverwalk and down Market Street and Front Street, as well as the drone shows that the CVB had managed, that all of it combined really offered a nice experience for folks this year, and people were taking notice. I have one email from a really nice email from Modern Legend. It's on Front Street, right next to Beach Bagels, and she noted that the crowds were thick on downtown streets this year, thicker than she's ever seen, people shoulder to shoulder walking. And also, of the 8 years that she's been in business, this particular December is the highest revenue December that she's ever had. So we know that, you know, through some of the business community response, that, you know, it did exactly what it was intended to do. Now we just need to convince the rest of the business community to stay open a little longer. And I think that we'll have a good recipe to make downtown successful during the months of November and December. So I appreciate your kind words, Michael.
I want to echo Michael's comments. My 2.5-year-old just wanted to go downtown and look at all the lights about every single night, it seems. And just to give you a compliment, I like how you just didn't concentrate on Market in Front or Market in Water, that you looked at Water Street, you looked at Front Street. You know, you really spread it out going towards the college. And 9 times out of 10, as you get closer to the college, that's kind of where the festivities drop off. And it's a shame because there's so many cool businesses up there. So to have it all over many blocks of downtown, it was bravo. I mean, My kid loved it. I didn't know about the drone shows, or I would have probably experienced those too. But he just had a ball. He thought Market and Front was just a magical thing with all the stuff and the trees and hanging down. I hope y'all continue that year after year.
Yeah, yes.
Hey, Christina, thank you for bringing up the city's portion of that. I completely slipped and should have put that on the side here too. And kudos to Amy Beatty and team from the community services side. They fought pretty hard to get funding for those new LED lights on the streets up and down Front Street, 3rd Street, as well as Castle. I think there was, I don't know, $100,000+ worth of funding there to replace those very, very, very dated Reese that haphazardly had lights that worked. So kudos to her and team as well for getting that funded and installed this year to go with and complement what everyone else is doing with the bigger lighting initiative. So thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, and we also need to mention that the engineering department also worked with Duke Energy to install courtesy outlets on every lamp post going south of Dock Street. And so that enabled WDI to work with our contractor to go ahead and place lighting all the way down to the entire Riverwalk. You know, we didn't make it with the wrapping of the railings up past Ann Street. It was intended to go to Ann Street and stop. But we had some extra lighting, so we did wrap the gooseneck lampposts going all the way down to the end of the Riverwalk as far as we could go. And so I think South End Riverwalk, I loved Market Street. Market Street was one of my favorite project areas to work on, but the other project area that I really enjoyed was Orange Street Landing. That area is just so dark as it is, and to be able to light that up right in the middle of the South End Riverwalk was pretty, and I think it kept people flowing from Market Street all the way down to the end. And I hope that the business community on the South End took some notes and noticed the amount of folks that were there, and hopefully they got some foot traffic as well as a result. So anyway, just want to make note of the city's involvement in that too, Chance.
Yeah, good point. That was a capital project that was pushed to, I think, 2026, 27. And I think this overall lighting initiative helped kind of swap some funding around and get that, not only those courtesy outlets, but the whole electrical circuitry that was basically underneath the Riverwalk for the last 15+ years getting wet with the ebb and flows of the tides, and redoing that whole circuitry from Market Street South and the Riverwalk to bring that to code and above that tide line. So evaluating it from a parking perspective, basically what we did was did two things on this slide. We did the full month as a whole, year over year, 2023, 2024, at where we thought we saw the biggest impacts from our visual throughout the month. We looked at Market Street, 2nd Street, River Place, and 2nd Street lot. Overall, for month to month, Market and 2nd were down. That was a little surprising at first, but then when we drilled down into the data from last year, there was a 5th weekend. So you had a 5th Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in 2023. So I think that's what's driving those negative variances there. And then when you look at River Place, both counts and revenue were up slightly. And then 2nd Street lot, both counts and revenue were up slightly. And that's even with the 5th weekend added into last year's data. When we looked at just the drone Saturdays only, which would have been the last 3 Saturdays last year comparison, and then the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Saturday of 2024, we were up across the board. At Market Street, there was an extra 420 parkers on those 3 Saturdays, $1,700 in revenue increases. Second Street, there were close to 400 additional parkers over those 3 Saturdays. River Place, an additional 251 parkers over those 3 Saturdays. And that River Place count does not include Ruth Chris validations. And then Second Street lot counts were pretty static on those Saturdays. And I think that's pretty common because that lot's nearly at capacity regardless on Fridays and Saturdays anyway. One thing we did see, I went back and looked at the cameras and I didn't even think about this first, but one thing we did see, at least via camera, we were at capacity at Market Street pretty much all 3 Saturdays. I think Second Street 2 of the 3 and River Place 2 of the 3, maybe all 3. We hit capacity from roughly 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And what we saw a lot of via camera were there were a lot of vehicles that came in and around the 6 o'clock mark, and then left right at that 7:15 to 7:30 mark when the drone show was over. So we did have a big number of folks that most likely drove in, parked, paid $1, and then went to the drone show and then left downtown with the assumption that they may not have visited any businesses downtown. So I think something we might need to look at next year is potentially just adding some activities around this initiative if the funding and capacity is there, but also maybe look at some parking fee analysis. I hate to say an increase in parking fees would benefit this, but from what I've seen in some other cities, a higher parking fee might also bring folks down here earlier and keep them downtown longer. And I think that's where the downtown merchants and businesses might see even more activity and foot traffic through their doors. So we'll definitely look at the analysis there further and see what we can do next year, not only on the parking side, but the city side as a whole, to kind of get more people down here and also, keep them down here longer. So with that, happy to answer any questions on the parking side of this.
Did you happen to do any analysis on the on-street parking?
No, but I've got a note on my page to get with Pivot to kind of look at the on-street hours purchased. Some of that might be tricky just because we're not running hard data on street, so we really have to base it on the paid parking transactions, and the paid parking transactions end at 6:30 on
Right.
Saturdays, but we can pull that data and see what we're looking at in terms of just hours purchased on those days.
Okay.
Regarding keeping people downtown longer during those evenings in the future, would it be possible to institute like a special event rate that is for like 3 hours or something to that effect, but isn't as like inflated of a cost? So say like $5 for 3 hours or something to keep those people that are coming down. That way they're like, oh, well, we already paid for it. It makes sense to go ahead and kind of bop around the shops and such.
Yeah, Sam,
Like a buy two, get one.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's definitely where my thinking is going. What that fee is going to be, I don't know, but I've also thought about whatever time duration and say a flat rate ends up being. I was also thinking that we have to figure out how to do this, but also potentially say it's a $10 flat rate all day Saturday for those Saturdays next year. I've also thought about how do we implement a validation voucher program that could discount off of that $10 rate to really push folks into those doors even more. So say it's a $10 flat event rate next year for the last 3 Saturdays if we do the drone show again. Maybe we give through DBA and WDI a voucher stamp barcode type program that allows them to hand out that barcode to folks that would discount that $10 down to say $5 with a purchase or something like that.
I think that's a really good idea. And Christina, I know in the past you and I have talked about possibly implementing like some kind of like scavenger hunt deal. So possibly it could even be like gamified so that those stamps and that like almost parking validation could really come into play in, again, having the businesses buy into the amount of traffic that's coming and how they can utilize that to boost them before the very slow months of January and February.
Yeah, I've talked to a company that has like a passport program, and they run it during certain events. It's in places like New York City, Chicago. They have other markets as well in other smaller cities, but I talked to them heavily about implementing a passport program for this year. The cost is a little bit high, and I think we could probably fund it through Bring It Downtown as part of the holidays initiatives. But it takes a little bit of work and involvement from the business community. I think we also need to try and convince our business community to stay open longer, at least till 8 o'clock at a minimum, to ensure that there's places for people to go and shop, other than, going to a restaurant. There's not many options right now. So I think a large part of that, people just coming and going, is that they have nowhere to go unless you want to go to a restaurant and wait an hour. You can't really do that with children. So there has to be a little bit of support from the business community too, in opening their doors a little bit longer for people to have things to do if we want to keep them downtown. So that's probably something that WDI and DBA need to work on a little bit, but happy to implement a voucher program. That would be incredible. And I think the business community would really support that too, if they can get their customers a little bit of a discount on the rates.
Yeah, I think we can, at least on the parking piece, especially if it's comboed with something else from DBA and WDI, but I think we can probably come up with some kind of targeted benefit there to where parking sees hopefully a bump in revenue at the same time, keeping folks down longer and kind of pushing them into the doors of these businesses as well.
Yeah, Sam and I have talked in the past about a campaign to keep the business community open too. So maybe you and I can, Sam, maybe you and I can get our heads together with Cheryl and see what we can do to try and ready something for, late fall to start.
Sounds like a plan to me, and it could also play hand in hand possibly with the Battle of the Bulbs competition that DBA does. So I think we could neatly wrap them all together in a way that benefits, again, a bump in parking while also, getting everyone downtown to see all these fabulous lights we're putting up. So thank you guys.
Any more questions on this one from the committee? Not, we'll move on to city's parking updates. Just quick recap. I think I noted last month, the convention center capital project is complete. Probably phase one of quite a few that we'll see over the next few years. I think next up at the convention center, we're going to look at retrofitting those old 48-inch fluorescent lights to LED. Working with a vendor now and a plan to move forward with that. Market Street capital project is nearing its completion. We added a change order on at the end to remove the old anti-graffiti membrane or latex, whatever was put on there that predates me, out of the stairwells and out of the elevator lobbies, and put a fresh coat of white paint into the stairwells, as well as color code the front facing facade of the elevator lobbies. I haven't been down there, but this week, but I think they're progressing. Hope to finish this week, early next week. And from what I'm hearing, a fresh coat of white paint on those stairwells is making a huge difference to what we were looking at, just a few weeks ago. We do have a small concrete repair project that's anticipated to begin at the Skyline deck. We had a what looks like a former repair on a supporting haunch, and T-beam there at the deck. It's kind of chipping away. So we will have a small concrete repair there. Shouldn't be too impactful at all to the parkers at that location. And then, in case anyone's gotten any complaints, we do still have a Market Street east side elevator down. That's the second side of the parking deck. Unfortunately, we are waiting on the parts for repair from ThyssenKrupp elevator. It's been down for nearly a month now, I think. We put a contract in place very, very quickly, but unfortunately, they had to order those parts. Supposed to be into Raleigh this week, hopefully out for repair next week. So we'll have both functioning elevators back up. That's it on the city parking updates. Any questions on these 4 items? And I'll hand it over to, I guess, Corinne on the pivot side to see if there's anything there.
Yeah, good morning. I just had a couple of talking points to bring up. Obviously, our residential passes, they expire January 31st. So, you know, we're getting a lot of renewals to come in. So far, we have like 56 people that came. They're able to do it online and in person down here. We are going to start power washing in February. We are going to start with the Market Street deck, obviously, and complete those staircases. The River Place is going to get done, including the plaza, the top floors of the 929, floors 4 to 6, 1 to 3 was done last year. And then the convention center levels will get done. 2nd Street is not in this proposal to complete as of yet because we just felt that it didn't need a huge power washing project. I know Chance gave the update with the drone shows, but yeah, I did have the update where we were closed about the 6 to 7 time frame. We reopened once the drone show concluded. He was correct. It was actually all 4 shows for Market Street, all Saturdays, and then for 2nd Street, it was the following 3 on the 14th, 21st, and 28th. For December, we wrote 2,481 citations and 2,361 of those were paid. So there's 120 difference, which is a 91% collection ratio. Probably one of our highest months that we've had. And then with the rate change, everything went completely successful. There was no issues. Market Street, we did lose about 36 accounts due to the $15 incline, but they were mostly just independent parkers. And some of them even went to that rooftop rate. And that's all I have, and happy to answer any questions. Turn it back over to you, Chance.
I think that's it. You know, one item I forgot to put on here, Michael, I think we attached you to the response to the resident on 300 South 3rd. I
Right.
don't believe we reported fully out on that back in November, but just a quick recap on the residential petition survey we got from the residents there on 300 South 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Yeah, that survey did not pass the 7-day-a-week, 70% occupancy rule to move forward into the next steps. I think on average with that 7-day-a-week survey, they were around the 50+% occupied. And obviously we saw some heavier parking on Friday nights, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, but on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, things were very, very light out there. So that did not pass. And unless we get a request for a petition again in either, you know, May or November of next year or at a future time, that one doesn't move forward.
Okay, yeah, very good, thanks. And I did see that, so I appreciate being kept in the loop.
Sure. Just on that note too, I have received a few calls from some outlying blocks with some just how do I proceed? What's the process to get a permit program in place? Centered around like the 5th and Nunn, out in that area. So just a heads up to the committee. I don't foresee anything coming coming in terms of petition anytime soon, and something we'll keep looking at. But just the heads up to committee, we are getting calls about it.
It's interesting, you know, Fifth and Ann is the Basilica. It's a building that's been empty across the street on the east side of the Basilica. It's been empty for 15 years. And then the other corner is more of the St. Mary's School and Tilliston School parking lot. So I'm not sure what will be driving it. There is a residence on the southeast corner of Fifth and Ann. And then going down to Nunn, you have the Methodist Church and a couple of other empty buildings. So interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. It's kind of a surprise. I don't think the volume is going to warrant a program. I think there might be times, like say the church is having some heavy activities. There might be some times where they're having an event on a Friday night, or, you know, church on Sundays, where it's driving some extra volume and activity there. But I don't see any parking challenges just from my travels. And you
Yeah.
live Fourth and Ann, right? Fifth and Ann, up in that area.
I'm sorry.
I said your residence is up in that area, right? Aren't you?
We're in this 300 block of Ann. We're in this between Third and Fourth and Ann. Yeah, and you're right about that. There is there can be at the church a lot of activity, which clogs up the streets for a bit. But that would be accepted, I would assume, from any sort of program in any event. So
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. And I haven't heard anything, and I know people who live in that area. So
But we'll bring it back to the committee if we get anything further out of that area.
okay, thanks.
All right, Madam Chair, back to you.
All right. We'll move on to organization representative reports. WPD, Lieutenant.
Good morning. Really, this is the slower time of our year, which we don't really complain about too often. We did 5 bar inspections with 0 violations, which is good. We had 10 drug arrests for the month, 4 being felonies, 3 DWIs, and 86 other charges, which include the trespassing, the assaults, the misdemeanor charges, like the open containers. We have planned an operation later in the month with ALE. They reached out and wanted to come in and start the new year off and just identify and address some of the issues that we're having downtown with some of the ABC outlets in the downtown area. And again, just wanted to echo what everybody said earlier. We've had a ton of positive remarks and, you know, just feedback regarding the lights downtown during the holiday season. As recent as yesterday, they were still talking about it. A gentleman stopped and talked to me for a long time. But other than that, there's nothing major to report.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Any at-large members here to want to say a few words? All right. CFCC, Sean?
Yeah, we are finally nearing completion of our gate install at the Nut Street deck. We set our pricing. We're going to be $2 an hour or $10 for event parking. They have started pulling the wires for the Hanover deck, and that one hopefully will be online the 1st of February. Plan on going live with Nut Street next week. So finally getting close. It's been a long time coming. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sean. DBA, Sam?
We're very excited to be kicking off the year strong. We have some new initiatives to provide additional funding for different district events. We'll be releasing that ideally towards the end of this month, which has the potential to bring, you know, additional workers to not only CBD, but surrounding areas. That is our main update. We had a retreat this past weekend, and there's a lot of really cool things in the pipeline that we'll be developing over the course of the year. I did, and I don't know if this is the right time to do that. I did notice on the website that my term is set to expire today, ironically. So Christina, would I touch base with you regarding what that looks like, or Chance, would that be a touch point with you regarding possible like reinstatement or transferring this role to another seat on DBA?
Sam, good question. DBA gets 2 seats. I think it's you and Justin Smith currently. If I'm not mistaken, did you replace Terry? You may have come
Yeah.
on mid Terry cycle. So you might be an auto appointment renewal by council. But let me shoot the clerk a note and just saying, number one, my question, are you interested in continuing on?
I believe so. My role with DBA has expanded, but there was another member potentially interested in taking this seat. So it's still up for debate internally, but I wanted to see what that process looked like, and if we were to swap, what kind of the next steps were.
Yeah, if there were to be a swap, I would say let me know as soon as possible, and then have potential replacement. Just fill out an application online through the clerk's office, and just note DPAC number 1 on that application. Number 2, Downtown Business Alliance representative or whatever it is. So yeah, just let me know either way. And if it's you continuing on, let me know too, just so I can let her know, so council's aware.
Awesome, thank you. I didn't realize it until literally yesterday, or I would have been a little bit more ahead of it. So thank you, Chance.
Or you could potentially end up like John Sneed did many moons ago and just keep getting appointed year after year after year. So, but
You
let me
finally
know.
kicked me off though.
I think John was like 8.5 years beyond expiration. Then
Longest serving member all time.
You're in. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. All right, moving on to New Hanover County.
I was
All right.
muted. No, sorry. I didn't really have anything. I did follow up with our chief facilities officer last time you asked about if there was anything of note with the Project Grace stuff downtown with the parking. The email she sent me, she said she couldn't think of anything pertinent, but she's going to check with the project manager and get back to me. So if anything comes up, I'll let you know.
Great, thank you. Roe, Michael?
Nothing to report really. It's a quiet time for Roe. Literally nothing to update the committee on.
Thank you, Michael. And for WDI, obviously we've been working very hard on the holiday lighting program. Our contractor is on the streets right now, removing lights from the project area. Those lights will be stored underneath the convention center parking deck and the storage area there until next season. You know, could be a replica of what we'd like to see happen next year. This particular program was about $200,000, and it will be a significant cost in labor for next year. So we're still ironing out those details. WDI, however, has set aside about $30,000 of its own funding to fund some sort of project configuration for this next year. So as long as we spend it in this fiscal year, I think we'll be good to go. I'm still speaking with the city and CBB to see what we can do about gathering some funds to initiate a contract for this coming December Christmas season. And hopefully we'll be able to pull everything together and make it just as nice, if not nicer, this coming year. Also, WDI has worked pretty heavily with the Brooklyn Arts District in their social district proposal. It's going to council for a second reading next week. Pretty hopeful that this is kind of a good way to be a litmus test to see how the community reacts and responds to such a district in our downtown area. 3 Saturdays, 12 to 5, hosting with coming with many different events, and the business community, which is probably about 20 plus business owners, have really come together in support of the initiative. So WDI has promised that should this go and pass in its second reading, that we will help with hospitality engagement and business engagements, as well as trash cleanup after the event through the MSD Ambassadors program. So I think that component is key when we're looking at how the vibrancy of the district looks during the event, before, during, and after the event. And I'm hopeful that others will see it as an opportunity to do something new and unique for our downtown, because there's really no other downtown social districts within the southeastern North Carolina region, and this would be the first for Wilmington. So other than that, really excited for many more initiatives to come this year, and thank you for everyone's support in the holiday lighting project this past year.
Hey, Christina, on the social district note, I know council is going to be looking for data. I'm not sure exactly what data they're really looking for, but I've instructed the pivot team to take some car counts, baseline car counts, the Saturday before it potentially commences, and then also take car counts, I think 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock on all 3 of those Saturdays. Down 4th Street in the 300, 400 blocks of 4th Street too. So just so we have a visitation type data point during this as well.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. And I know Scott Wagner and Tara English. Scott Wagner is the business owner at Goat and Compass, and Tara English is the business owner of Brooklyn Cafe. Both of them worked really hard on the documentation that was submitted to council with just some revisions and review through WDI, but that particular proposal had an evaluation period after each district event. And I know that during the margarita crawl that they had this past year, they banded together and put together a total cost in supplying the district cups and the employment base. But I think they also maybe not the cost, but I think they looked at it overall in the totality of the event and the impact to the revenues. And if they could look that as a business community in terms of revenue impact, I think that would be something also that they could share either through, themselves or through DBA. I think there's a connection with Tara English, and now sits on the DBA board in that capacity of what those revenues actually look like. So the counts and the traffic counts and the revenue base will both be good models to really show the impact. I haven't spoken with Tara about this yet, but we could try to highlight the north end parking deck, the City Skyline Center parking deck, as a potential area to go to if the 4th Street parking gets and all the outer lying streets get full, that they could shift over to the Skyline deck. But maybe we should have a conversation with Scott and Tara about that chance and whether or not they want to utilize that, because that also requires patrons to walk across 3rd Street.
That's a bit of a walk from the 99 deck down to like the Goat and Compass and the Brooklyn Bakery. It's not close. I wouldn't think of it as close. But
Got it. Thanks, Christine.
People do travel there after concerts. They walk from Live Oak Bank Pavilion to concerts. They also park on 4th Street and go to the concert. So
that's true.
Shift might be able to shift. I don't consider it too far of a walk, but for others it may be.
I can actually see it from my window right here, that area. It is a couple of blocks. It's not a horrible walk, but it is a little bit of a walk. The scariest part though would be crossing 3rd Street.
Right.
I guess that's what makes it seem far is and a bit of a hike is crossing 3rd, which is busy. So yeah, I guess physically it's not all that.
Beyond the cross on 3rd, I think one of the program goals is to get people out on foot visiting the length of 4th Street Brooklyn Arts businesses. So, but yeah, I think that's why we're taking parking counts too, Christina. Just so we've got just some data points of the impacts with not only the businesses, but also as you go further east into the neighborhood, you've got residential on all those 400 cross blocks leading into 5th Street. So that's something we just want to look at.
I see. Okay. For sure.
I had a quick question. Have we ever explored like any partnerships with Wave regarding like a shuttle kind of service to get people from a deck to a location? So maybe they could mitigate that crossing of 3rd Street. Because I've definitely done the whole sprint across 3rd during heavy traffic time, heading to concerts, and it is a little scary at times. So have we ever explored anything like that where it's just known that there are like maybe the like more micro transport, like the vans that could run people from one location to the other?
From my understanding, the Wave budget is pretty set in stone and what it's allowed to do in terms of operation. And right now, the existing trolley service is no longer running during the off season. I don't know if, we could ask, somehow pay as a business community, as a downtown, to have that trolley service work in the off season. I don't know, maybe that's something that DBA and WDI can approach Wave Transit about. If they're not going to be operational in the off season, is there a way that we can pull that trolley in for doing some special event service routes? And but I don't know how much that would cost either. So I don't know if it's even feasible, but maybe we can all look into it.
And that I think would be a cool addition that would promote pushing people to the decks while also ensuring safety. Because I know when we go to concerts, we usually park on 4th too and do that run to unfortunately avoid the like parking fee. So I'm sure that that is going to be most people's mentality, and kind of the draw of the social district is that certain places in that area still aren't, unless y'all have changed it, still don't have the on-street parking fees. So if we're trying to push revenue, I think that might be something we could explore. Thank you. We can definitely chat. Sounds like we need to have a chat.
Any other comments or concerns from the committee? All right. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Michael. Second.
Second.
All right, thank you, McKay. All right, all those in favor, go ahead and sign off. Thank you all. See you
All
next
right.
month.
Thank you.